Welcome into a special live Christmas Eve edition of the Barking Browns. I am not Jacob Roach, as you can tell by my lack of a magnificent mustache. Jacob is on assignment. I'm going to be piloting the episode. There's going to be turbulence. My name's Casey Kinnaman. I have with me the dastardly dynamic duo of Nicholas Carnes and Bill Sparks. And as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. You guys know the drill. Head to SeatGeek, punch in that promo code Barking Browns, and receive $20 off your first order. 'Tis the season. It's Christmas Eve, so a lot of you guys out there probably start Christmas shopping today. And tickets are about the easiest thing you could do. You know, you get in a jam, you need to do something, head over to SeatGeek, punch in that promo code, save yourself some money. Or if you can't find coal to put in someone's stockings, Browns tickets work basically the same. You can just go home game. Let's do it. Promo code Barking Browns, save yourself some money. Gentlemen, how are we today?
We are good. I'm here joining you guys on Wednesday. It's a different speed. Normally I'm with Jacob on the draft show, but I figured I'd come on here, give some holiday cheer with Jacob being on assignment. Nick, how are you doing, man?
I'll tell you what, Merry Christmas to everybody. We have just been seeing the numbers and seeing the growth. And so Browns may not be the most fun fandom right now, but y'all still care. We still care. And it means a lot that you're taking the time to spend it with us. So I'll tell you what, I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic about the future, regardless of the present.
Well, I don't want to spend too much time backtracking, but we need to talk a little bit about the game that happened on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. And so just you guys give me your main takeaways from what you saw on Sunday, and then we'll bounce forward to the future.
So my biggest takeaway, this was a classic Jim Schwartz stinking up the joint, you know, and he talked about it today with Adam Siciliano in the media. He said the first 3 drives just flat out sucked. And that's true. 21 plays, 210 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's numbers that get you fired in the NFL. And when you give that up to a team like Buffalo alone, who can already run up the score on you, it's the classic tried and true. This is the Browns run defense that, you know, put them in a hole that this offense just can't dig them out of.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I know this is not going to be very popular. We titled the show today, Draft Positioner Beating Pittsburgh. My takeaway is I am fully on the draft position train. And like, I get it. It's weird. It puts you in a weird position when you're looking at it. Like, I mean, I'm wearing Browns gear. I'm always wearing Browns gear. It's like, I think what's in the best interest of the team is different than what is the most fun outcome on the field to end the year here. And that is not a position I wish on any other fan or any other fan base. But I stand by the Browns picking number 2 or higher in the draft is the greatest outcome that could come from a bad season. Better than beating the Steelers, better than beating the Bengals. It is the best chance for the best future for the Browns.
If you would have told me before the game that you hold Josh Allen to 12 of 19 passing for 130 yards and 17 yards rushing on 7 carries, I'd feel pretty damn good about it. But to Bill's point, James Cook's still running. Like, he's somewhere out there still getting yards, still, you know, and the inability to stop the run. And for record, it happened before Malik Collins went out. And a lot of people were pointing to Malik saying it was happening before him, these leaks. And it's just, you put enough stuff on tape, offenses learn how to attack you, and especially Jim Schwartz. And it continues to be, if it's not a offensive coordinator from the Shanahan tree, they're going to have their way with Jim Schwartz. So it was just a continuation of that. And I want to kind of piggyback on what Nick said. I heard a very interesting thing today, and it was about rule changes, like rule changes you would implement. And one of them they came up with, this is on the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast with DK, Craig Horlbeck, and Danny Heifetz. And they said that there should be a loser's bracket to determine who gets the number 1 pick. That you should take the worst teams in the league instead of just us playing out the string and then whoever's the worst team getting the number 1 pick. They should put the worst teams against each other at the very end of the season. And the winner of that tournament should get the number 1 overall pick. Where would you guys stand on that?
I think that would work in like the NBA where tanking is just so much easier to do because you have more control over the game. But in the NFL, it would be very hard to say, okay, well, we're going to put all of these teams in this bracket and the losing team is going to get the number one overall pick. I think if you're going to do that, it would have to be a very small bracket of, say, the 4 teams that are just so otherworldly bad that it's not even funny. But if you did it like a 8-12 team bottom bracket, that could be a problematic because then you're looking at a team like, say, the Washington Commanders or the Miami Dolphins who have
Kansas City making a run.
Kansas City making a run and turning it on. Yeah. And then, you could also manipulate it by benching, your stars for a month and a half. And then, we're in the bottom bracket tournament. Now let's put Patrick Mahomes in and go win the number one overall pick. Nick, what do you say about that?
It's a tough situation because I don't know if either of you guys saw, like the Raiders just announced that they're putting Brock Bowers on IR just before we went live today. And it's a knee injury he's been battling all year, but obviously they are playing the Giants, and that is going to be for the number one overall pick right there. So it's some pretty clear tanking if you ask me. But I guess my biggest problem is we've gotten to this point in the season and it's like the injuries on all teams are piling up. And I just think if you're in a situation where, well, it would be exciting. It would be exciting, but I think you're right. That's probably the best point is that you'd have to keep it to a very small pool. It could be interesting.
What?
I gotta give that some thought, man.
Well, if you look at like this weekend, we got the Giants and Raiders, right? The winner of that game gets punished. You know what I mean? Like there should be something on the line, even if it was just even if the start off, it was only the worst 2 teams. Just wild card weekend. It's like a showcase game. It's for the number one overall pick. I'd be into it. I just think that it would put more on the line. And there's that line in Ted Lasso, and they ask him, what happens to the worst teams in the league? Because there's no relegation. He's like, well, they just go out there to half-empty stadiums playing for people who don't care, going through the motions. And that's where we're at right now, And I know we would be on the outside looking in on that if it was only the bottom 2 teams. But if it was the bottom 4 teams, I think it could just add a lot of intrigue and give a little more meaning to the end of the season.
Yeah. I think if you're going to do it, you go ahead, Nick, and I'll follow up on you.
Anything but a lottery. Anything but a lottery.
Yeah.
Got it. The way the NBA does it and the ping pong balls and the behind closed doors room thing and the way that teams that lose players mysteriously get to the top, like anything but that. Show us the results on the field.
Yep. I will say this, if you're going to do it, axe the Pro Bowl and have a 3-game weekend. What you do is 1 versus 4, so the worst versus the 4th worst, the second versus the third, the winner of those 2 games, well, actually the loser of those 2 games, then plays for the number one overall pick.
I love it. I need more intrigue. We've had nothing on the line for so long. It would give us something. All right, let's go ahead and fast forward here. And then we titled the show "Draft Position or Beating Pittsburgh," which this is a rough thing. Like, because if you're going, like, I know that winning hurts your chances at draft position, but it's Pittsburgh. Could you really be that angry if they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers and kind of fuck up their season towards the back end here?
I wouldn't be, because here's the big thing, and you just hit on it. Pittsburgh's not set in stone in the playoffs as of right now. Right now, they would be the 4 seed, but there's still an outside chance if Baltimore wins out, Pittsburgh loses the next 2, that Baltimore takes them in, and now Pittsburgh's out. Pittsburgh wins, they're almost assuredly in the 4 seed. So I get not wanting to sacrifice draft position, but the other thing we have to talk about, Nick hit on it a little bit with Brock Bowers being on IR, the Browns are not guaranteed a top 2 selection in the NFL draft, because there is a chance, and I've talked about this with Jacob, and I hear him screaming at me in the comments right now, if the Giants and Raiders tie this weekend, they are the 1st and 2nd overall pick. There is no catching them. So that's out there in the ethos. So I would say, for me, if it was any other team, if it was Indianapolis, if it was Houston, if it was any other team that's not a divisional opponent, tank it, throw it away, everything. but a divisional opponent, that just means something more. See, there he is right there already telling me. It just means something more, and I get wanting a better draft position, but this is one game I don't think you tank. Nick, what say you?
I actually got a friend of mine, fellow Browns fan, really heated at me this weekend because I very clearly stated that I do not want the Browns to win another game this year. And I'm not coming off the hill because I don't want to mess up the Steelers season for one game or 1 year. I want to mess up the Steelers season for the next decade or 15 or potentially longer. And to me, the best way to do that is to get yourself. I don't know if they're drafting a quarterback, and I know Bill and Jacob could start yelling at each other about the best way to go about it. So I'm not going to even throw out either scenario. What I know is that the higher you pick, the more valuable of a player or an asset you're going to get for that pick. And that to me is the Browns' path. They have lost so much value through some pretty terrible trades. Deshaun Watson's not being activated this year. Don't know what Jerry Jeudy's future is. Now, the Jerry Jeudy thing, it didn't cost too many picks, but you still paid him. I'm tired of seeing value go out the window. I want the scales to tip the other way. I do not want the Browns to win another game this year, and I'm not coming off of it. Oh no.
Oh, well, we lost Case, but that's fair. I like where your head's at there. My thought is, because even if you look at the draft order in of itself right now, with what Tankathon has, you have the Giants, Raiders, they're playing each other this weekend, and then the Browns would be the number 3 overall pick. So whoever wins this game is likely going to pass Cleveland, unless Cleveland wins. You still have 2 games left on the docket, both Pittsburgh this weekend and then the final regular season game. So you can easily, there he is, he's back. You can easily win this one and still probably end up with a top 5 selection. But I'm not quite there on punting a season against a conference opponent just because of the hatred of Pittsburgh. But if it was any of the other 28 or so teams, yeah, punt away.
Sure. I can respect that too, right? I'm not going to tell anyone they're wrong for wanting to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like you're fine to tell me I'm wrong. I can live with that. Because
I'm 100% with you. Like, I think honestly, I've talked with Jacob about this over on our draft shows. We talked about it a little bit this past Monday night. I am of the camp, no quarterback to be drafted in this class. And what I say by that is end up with a top 2 selection where you're in a position to get Dante Moore, and then you sell that pick, because I can guarantee you a team like the Rams with multiple firsts, a team like the Jets who have 5 first rounds over the next 2 years, you could sell that pick and recoup every single pick that you've lost from Deshaun Watson, and you're right back to where you started before that trade happened.
I just want to address this real quick because I understand the Browns' track record of drafting over the last multiple decades is not great. Like, fully acknowledge that. But the only true path to building a consistent winner is to draft well. So I know that the Browns have tried and failed multiple times. Infinite times, but that doesn't change the path. So no matter how many times you fail, that's what you have to keep trying to do. And we've seen countless other teams turn it around through the draft, right? Yep. So it will happen eventually. Just because it hasn't happened in a long time does not mean it won't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. The thing people have to realize is the draft is not an exact science, and even the best NFL GMs are probably only going to hit on it about 30 to 40% of the time. You look at the Eric DaCosta in Baltimore and the Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, they have only had probably about the same amount of success that Andrew Berry's had. You look at Andrew Berry's first round picks since he got here in 2020, and that's just first round picks. Jedrick Wills, bust. Greg Newsome, he's not on the team, but he was actually a pretty solid player while he was here. And then Mason Graham, who we've seen has had a really good start to his career. So out of 3 first round picks, you're probably looking at about a 33% hit rate, depending on how you classify Greg Newsome. So again, that's what we see. The reason that the narrative's out there of us not drafting well is because we just haven't had the premier draft talent. In most cases, either the 54th pick was our first one, the 74th pick, or the 68th pick was our first pick. That's not going to be starter caliber guys.
It's also just not enough swings at the bat. Like when we talk about DaCosta, Baltimore will roll into a draft with 13, 14 picks. You know, and a lot of that's compensatory, but like that's just how they roll that over every year, and they just have so many swings that allows them to take, you know, even like if you look at like, okay, well, they got their franchise quarterback. He wasn't even their first pick that year.
Yeah.
They took Hayden Hurst. You know what I mean? Before they took Lamar. So, you know, it's you have enough. It's about equity, and it's about taking enough swings that, you know, even if you connected 33%, but you have 13 picks, you're going to have a higher hit, you know, more hits, even though your hit rate's similar.
Yeah, exactly that. And going along with Philadelphia and Howie Roseman too. Yeah, they traded up to go get Carson Wentz, but then a few years later, they took Jalen Hurts in the second round because they said, hey, let's take a swing here. Either we swing and miss, or it's a home run, and it's been a home run for them. It's got them a Super Bowl.
Well, let's talk about that because you mentioned something, I think it was last week, and it had me thinking actually earlier today. Okay, say the Browns end up in the 2-hole, just like they were during the Wentz draft. But the front office doesn't have that grade on Dante Moore or Mendoza, one or the other. See, because the Browns were in this exact same position, and they didn't have the grade that said you take Wentz at 2. They traded out. And over time, immediately it looked like it was a disaster because Wentz had a good start to his career, but, you know, he petered off, and I don't think anyone's mad at him now for not taking Wentz 2 overall. But this is how you judge drafts. You can't judge a draft right away. You got to wait 4 or 5 years, and then you can properly evaluate whether something was a hit or a miss. So is there a world where they are in the 2-hole, but they don't have that draft evaluation on Dante Moore, and they trade out for a bevy of picks?
I see that there is. I think, and Jacob and I have talked about it. My biggest concern with Dante Moore is that it's a twofold consideration. The first one is he just doesn't have the number of starts that you would want from a franchise quarterback. The study's been shown typically you want to fall about that 30 to 33 start marker. He'll be at 20. So that's part of the issue. And where part of that stems from is the more starts you have in college, the more likely you are when you see issues in the NFL, like pressure, you're able to handle it because you've handled it so many times before. And that's the other problem with Dante Moore is he struggles with pressure up the middle because he's just not very mobile. No, we're on this soapbox, Jacob. We're going to talk about this. We're going to chop it up. So Jacob has a franchise. He says Dante Moore can be a franchise guy. I think he's got the flashes to be that. This is a CJ Stroud level guy. But if the front office doesn't see it that way, then the conversation becomes you're sitting in the 2-hole, and let's say you're trading down to the 11 spot with the Rams currently. You could feasibly ask for the Rams' 11th overall selection, the 28th overall selection that they also own. You could also ask for their first-round pick next year, which would be probably at a discounted rate. And then you could also probably ask for their second rounder this year to fall that far. I mean, we just saw Cleveland trade down from 2 to 5 and get a future first-round pick by itself, as well as the pick for Quinshon Judkins. So you got to think if you're going from 2 to 11, the haul you're going to get there, and then you go down to 11, you can still get the players that you want at 11, either offensive tackle or wide receiver. And then you have 2 future first-round picks next year. So if Shedeur ends up not being the guy, you have ammo to go get a guy next year.
All right, well, that's my next question then. So this is for Bill, because I know the Knicks already on. Let's go draft a quarterback. All right, Bill. So has Shedeur already shown you enough that he should be the unquestioned starter going into 2026, and you build around, or do you see a world in which they go sign a free agent to compete with him?
That's where I'm at. I think he has earned the right for you to not take a quarterback, but he is not the unquestioned guy. I think the big thing you're looking at is you're bringing in a bridge quarterback to compete with him. And then if for some reason Shedeur doesn't end up winning the job, then now you have a guy who can steady the water for you next year, probably get you 6 to 7 wins. If Shedeur ends up getting the job, you now have a fail-safe behind him in case Shedeur gets injured, in case of break glass. My vote would be Malik Willis from the Green Bay Packers, who's done very well at Green Bay. We just saw him take over for Jordan Love. And then you have a quarterback competition of Malik Willis versus Shedeur Sanders, may the best man win, while you're building your offensive tackle room, because you're looking at replacing all 5 starters. While you're building out wide receiver, you're looking at 2 wide receivers. The big thing is, while you are in a position to take a quarterback at 2, like Nick said, you build through the draft. Yes, you can add pieces in free agency. You can sign a Tyler Linderbaum. You can sign a Rasheed Walker. You can sign an Alec Pierce. But you have to build through the draft. And if you're going to do that, the best way is to trade down, accumulate picks, get those swings and bites of the apple, and build around them. And then if you trade down far enough, like to 11th or 10th, like Jeff says, you keep stacking first rounders. You come back in 2027 and say, hey, we have 2 first rounders. We can go anywhere on the board and get our guy wherever we land.
And Casey, I know that it's clear I prefer the quarterback, but that doesn't mean I'm not open to, like, if you get the type of haul that Bill's talking about, I think there is reason to say, okay, we can be patient here for a year and we can try to start building this team for a quarterback. Like I could still get on that plan, but the haul has to be one of those no-brainer. We got so much value here that it's just overwhelmingly advantageous to take this plan. It has to be that type of situation, at least for me.
Okay, well, Nick, let me ask you this then, because without me and Bill even talking about it, he named my quarterback of choice, Malik Willis. That's the guy that I would target as far as free agents that I think has a high enough upside that, you know, it's a lottery ticket. You're probably not going to have to you're not going to pay crazy for it. You're probably going to have to give a decent contract, but like, would you be okay with a quarterback room going in the next year that is Shedeur Sanders, Malik Willis, Dylan Gabriel, and a player that I'm not going to say his name?
I think with the caveat that you got a great haul to start building your roster from a point of youth again, I could live with that, because I'd still like Shedeur Sanders. Like, even if they draft a quarterback high now, it may not make sense with all the hoopla that surrounds Sanders. That's no fault of his to keep him in that room if you draft a quarterback high, and I understand that. But it would still be my preferred option to have him on this roster and to give him time to develop, because we've seen a lot of examples of quarterbacks developing over time, especially recently. And I think Sanders has shown a nice bit of promise. It's just there's not a lot to work with, and there's certainly not a lot of blocking to work with. So, I mean, aside from Harold Fannin right now, the options are pretty limited for him to throw to. So I would be interested to give Shedeur some time and say, hey, if we improve the situation around you, what can this be?
All right, well, that's where we're at right now. So it's this runway that we have, these final 2 games. This next game is the last one that I view as a true evaluation, which we should also say this because we talked about Pittsburgh's chances of getting the playoffs. The Ravens play Green Bay on Saturday. So the fate could be decided. If Green Bay beats the Ravens, there's a chance that Pittsburgh could kind of call off the Dogs, which would make it a less useful game as far as an evaluation tool, because you want to see what Shedeur can do against a team that's as close to full strength as you can be at this stage in the season. But what would you need to see out of him against Pittsburgh to feel confident that he's made enough steps to at least earn the right to compete for the starting job?
I think the big thing that I would want to see from Shedeur Sanders is what we saw from him in Buffalo, what we saw him the week prior, is play within structure and play on schedule and get the ball out on time. That was one of his biggest knocks when he was at Colorado, was he had a tendency to hold on to the ball too long. And we've started to seen it a little bit, you know, this season right now, currently his time to throw is 3.3, which is on the higher end. But when you look at the guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the creators, their time to throw normally hovers around 3 seconds. So it's not super egregious. But the big thing is we saw we saw a lot of it. He takes what the defense gives him and he doesn't try to push the ball down the field. And that's what I would want to see from a full strength defense like Pittsburgh's, that you want to, get the ball out on time, get it out on structure. And that is a great question by Serge. Is he too screen reliant? I don't care that my quarterback relies on the screens, because you look historically, guys like Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, even Bo Nix, typically most of their yardage, at least 50% or more of their yardage, comes from screens. What that shows to me is that they are operating within the offense. They are getting the ball out on time. I don't care. Here's the thing. A touchdown is a touchdown is a touchdown. 6 points is 6 points is 6 points. Whether it comes from 1 yard out, 50 yards out, or 75 yards out, it's still 6 points on the board. How you get there is irrelevant to me, because it's points on the board, which means it's a win. And a win doesn't say, well, they won because they had 300 yards of screen yards. No, they won. That's exactly it. But for me, he's worked on his flaws like Jacob has talked about. He's improved, and that's what I want to see. I want to see continuous improvement week over week to say, hey, if I give him a full 17-game runway, can I have a guy that could be my potential franchise quarterback?
I think we've reached the point now where basically the sentiment is we've written the Browns off, season's done. Let's go into draft conversation and talk about what our options are. And from Shedeur's perspective, if you can change that conversation to, oh, you elevated the offense around you and you beat Pittsburgh. I mean, that's the type of that's what I'm looking for. It is because we got a little glimpse of it against Tennessee, and we've seen little hints of it, especially with the connection between him and Bond, just elevating guys around you and being able to overcome a rough situation. So for me, what I'm looking for is for Shedeur to continue to overcome his situations. And that is, it might not be beating Pittsburgh, but it could be, because we've seen so many times these end of the year Steelers matchups where the offense is just pitiful. Pittsburgh puts a whooping on you. It's embarrassing. It's one of those things that gets everybody fired. And if Shedeur is able to go out there, especially with this situation, and he's able to continue to get receiving production out of a core that has really not been good at all. I think that's what speaks to me, is looking for that element of a quarterback just raising the floor of the guys around him.
Well, I think collectively we're all ready to see Kevin Stefanski pack his bags. Does not going and drafting a quarterback, as far as your plan, do you think that hurts the prospects for hiring a new head coach?
No, I think if you're a new head coach and you end up, let's say they end up with a second overall pick, you have a second overall pick, you have a pretty darn good draft class that you just had in Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, Carson Schwesinger, Harold Fana Jr. With some creative maneuvering, you can get to just north of $100 million in cap space by restructuring a few deals, including he who will not be named, Denzel Ward, and then some post-June first cuts on a couple of guys, which I did an article over on for the Right Way Sports Network, TWSN, who I write for. It's up on my X page, which the link is right here in terms of my X handle at Spark Scouting. You can go read it and see how they would get to that $100 million cap amount. But if you tell me $100 million in cap space, a second overall pick, a draft class that was just really good, you have an owner that has a shown willingness to spend to win. That is the big thing in the NFL. It is a pay-to-play scenario, because you look at teams like Philadelphia. They're doing the same thing. And then you look at the flip side of the coin in like Cincinnati with an ownership that just flat out refuses to spend money. Now you're coming to a place where you have all of these things. I don't think taking a quarterback is going to prevent coaches from wanting to come here. I think, if anything, if I'm a head coach candidate, I wouldn't want to take a quarterback, because the moment I take a rookie quarterback, my clock starts. So I have to get the most success in a hurry.
I definitely come from the same philosophy, especially if they clean house entirely. I think it could make even more sense for a trade down type scenario, because to me, that should give you, and you look at this regime in year 6 now with very mixed results. I think Jimmy Haslam has shown more patience now than he ever has earlier in his ownership. So I would feel that if they brought in a new regime, that Haslam's demonstrated his willingness to be patient, and on top of that, then you probably can sell the plan to the fan base even more so and say, okay, this regime wasn't getting it done. All right, we can live with that. We fired them, and we're going to fix that with our new hires. So I would think that there would be a more collective buy-in to say, all right, this new regime gets a longer timeline and can afford to trade down and can afford to have a maybe not as winning focused first year. As much as that pains me, I do think it makes sense.
Guys, I have to apologize. The reason I have to keep dipping out is I live in a state where it's incredibly too hot for this time of year. It's 78 degrees outside, and my phone keeps overheating.
Oh, man.
So, like, the phone's going to progressively keep getting closer to my face because I got to keep it away from the windshield. It just keeps like an ant under a magnifying glass, man. I'm lucky that thing hadn't burst into flames yet.
The one thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned, too, is I talked about it a little bit with time to throw. Of quarterbacks that have at least 95 dropbacks this season, so at least 95 times they've dropped back this year, Shedeur Sanders is 7th in terms of time to throw. You look at the names ahead of him: Cam Ward, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jackson Dart, Josh Allen, Caleb Williams. I'm just saying the time to throw mechanic is not the end all be all, because you look at all 6 of those guys ahead of him, go watch them play and see what they're doing. They're scrambling around.
All 6 first round picks? Was everybody you just named a first round pick?
Everybody was a first round pick.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And they all fall under the creator tab. I think that's another thing you would say about those guys.
Yeah. And if you look at the 3 right behind him, Jalen Hurts, Drake May, Jaden Daniels.
All right. So, Bill, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, what you got?
What offensive coordinator would you pair with Shedeur Sanders to get the maximum amount of his abilities?
So for me, my offensive coordinator, my dream offensive coordinator is 2. I will accept either one. Either Mike LaFleur, the current Rams offensive coordinator, or Nate Scheelhaas, the current Rams passing game coordinator. And the reason for that is when you watch Matthew Stafford, he has the ability to create, but it's a restrained creation. It keeps him in the pocket, but allows him to step up, back, side to side, as well as the route trees that you watch. You go watch that Rams offense and you watch Devontae Adams, who looks 10 years younger. You watch that Rams offense and how it's just so creative in the route concepts. But it also allows Matt Stafford to say, hey, if you need to take off and run, do it, but you're gonna win from the pocket. And that's what Shedeur needs, is someone who says, hey, you can take off and run if you need to, if you feel the pressure, but create from the pocket, because we're going to scheme up. We're going to hit the easy button for you. And I think that's what Shedeur needs right now in his development, is an offensive coordinator who can give him the easy button and say, hey, right here, you've got this first read. If it's not open, here's your easy button in the flat and take it.
Feels promising.
A lot of it's perception, too, because LaFleur, when he was with the Jets, none of that looked like that.
Yep.
But you see with the proper personnel what it could look like.
Bingo.
I have an additional question that Jacob's asking us here. We have been beating the drum for the Carson Schwesinger Defensive Rookie of the Year prop, and Jacob's held it for this long. Are you holding it, or are you I don't know what the cash out is. I think Jacob stands to win like $300. If
he put in $5 at 2,000 to 1, maybe.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But I think the difference is if he cashes out now, first maximum payout's like $36. Me and Jacob talked about this. I wouldn't have any problem with cashing out right now, with the difference being $36. If the difference was $100, I would hold on because I think he's going to win it.
Yep.
But with injury, if he sprains his ankle in the first quarter, I don't know. But who's chasing him really? Is it Aman Warry? Is that it? Like, who else is in this conversation?
I would say Eamon Worry and then James Pierce Jr. as he leads all rookies with
yeah.
sacks. I would say right now, I would say hold. I would say ask me again next week because I think it's going to come down to Schwesinger, Eamon Worry, and James Pierce Jr. And right now, my vote, not being biased, but it's for Schwes because he's tied for fourth in terms of tackles with all NFL players, not just rookies.
Well,
did I have that correct,
well.
Jacob? Was it $36 the difference?
Yeah. The cash out is 119, and the max payout's 150.
okay.
So
Yeah.
So I could, that's about $36 or so. Yeah.
I think I'm taking.
I would
the
have no
cheese.
problem. Buddy Man Worry just got banged up last week, right?
But that's what
He had
I'm
the second
scared
best
about.
odds.
I'm scared about Schwesinger getting hurt.
He'll play. He'll play through it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think you
For
have to
36
also
bucks,
think, though.
it's not egregious.
No, I think you also have to think the two competitors that he's playing against are the Falcons, who are all but out of it. So they don't really have a whole lot of incentive. And then the Seattle Seahawks, they're in the race for the number 1 overall seed. They may end up sitting their starters next week. So that's why I say after this week, if Swesh makes it through healthy, you might be good to run it. It's this week that's going to be important because next week you've got Falcons playing the Saints. You've got Seattle going up against the 49ers, which could potentially be for the number 1 overall seed and the NFC West title. But depending on the results of this week, Seattle may lock it up. So I think your biggest conversation is with Eamon Worry.
So I'm just going to say one more thing, and I got to jump off and let you boys finish. You've done a fantastic job here. But I wanted to say that it's absolute fucking bullshit that Carson Schwesinger is an alternate to the Pro Bowl. That's fucking shit. That's bullshit. I hate it. Screw all you guys.
But I think what matters is the All Pro. I think he'll get that nod. Pro Bowl to an extent, popularity contest.
There's a reason I said to cut it. There's a reason I said at the beginning of the show to cut it with our lottery tournament that we talked about because it's a popularity contest. I mean, the fact that Denzel Ward, and I love that Denzel Ward got a Pro Bowl nod, he hasn't had a Pro Bowl caliber year. It's been a bit of a down year for him. There's been some games he looks great, and then there's been some games where it's like, you could tell he's either banged up or you could tell it's kind of So,
but his name recognition is pulling him forward.
Bingo. That's exactly it.
I still always think about Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley, and to me, that is the conversation ender as far as that goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to bring up something from a former Pro Bowler that is kind of a little bit sad, but I think we need to ponder it. Have we seen the last of David Njoku in a Cleveland Browns jersey?
I think the pendulum has swung into Cleveland's court. Cleveland is going to probably extend an offer. It's not going to be top dollar tight end money because they're going to say, if you don't take it, well, we've got Harold Fannin right back here. And then again, just like Serge talked about, depends on how much money he wants. I don't see a world where they move on from him, but I also don't see a world where they have to bring him back either. I mean, if you told me that they sent him an offer in terms of, average salary, probably falling in somewhere in the 11 to 12 million range, which right now he's at 13.6 as an annual value. You gave him an offer of probably 12 million, which puts you in the Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, even Jake Ferguson, even a little bit under Mark Andrews, who just got 13 million. I think they extend that offer. And if he says, no, I want more, well, go test the market and move on.
I think this could have been a great year for David Njoku to step up and be that veteran safety valve. And really, it's been Harold Fannin, man. He's already become that answer for the quarterback. And so I'm not sure what's going on there with Dave, but I don't think it's worth paying a premium price tag right now. So I would like to have him back. I definitely would. Would like to see that guy that we saw for the Joe Flacco run but haven't seen him since, man. And that's tough because I love David Njoku.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's because you still have to replace him though. Fannin doesn't play the same position. I know they're listed as a
Right.
tight end, but it's apples and oranges from what they're asked to do scheme wise. So you'd still have to go get an inline guy.
Sure.
I could see a world where it's very Nick Chubb like, right? Like they're going to extend the offer. He might find greener grass, or just with all the balls being funneled to Fannin in the pass game, it's not as likely that you have a guy who's going to see 80 targets as a second, as a secondary tight end option. So you might, if you look at somewhere like Kansas City, they, some team like that might step up, and it might even be an even offer, but the platform might be more intriguing to him. It'll be a sad day though when we see Chief go.
It's the same conversation we just had with the new offensive coordinator, right? Is how much more 12 personnel, 2 tight end looks are we going to run versus if we get a new offensive coordinator, are we going to go more 3 wide receiver sets? Are we going to open it up and spread it out? What's the need for 2 tight ends at that point? And like Nick's point, we already have Harold Fannin. Do we need a second one?
Well, if you get your wish though, the Rams run a shit ton of 13.
Yeah.
like they run a ton of multiple tight end sets, so that might play to his favor if they were to go in the LaFleur direction.
Well, I know that we are getting up against it, and I just we've had such an active comments here, even on Christmas Eve, and
Yes.
I want all of you to know from a personal perspective that the best Christmas present now is seeing these numbers, these likes, these everything grow, because you're helping us chase dreams, man. And I'll tell you what, if you're here when the Browns are having this kind of season, I can't wait to see what happens as the Browns improve, man. So thank you to all of you. Please push that like and subscribe button. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Merry Christmas to all, and it's still fuck the Pittsburgh Steelers.
This has been a Fuck the Pittsburgh Steelers episode of the Barking Brown Show. Going to try to get this right. I'm Nick. He's Casey. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Got
And
it.
he's Bill. Go Browns.
Love it.